Hello, class. Okay, today we're going to talk about some of the specifics of the formal argument and also the explication of the argument paragraph that I have in the rubric for the draft. So this is helping you with the draft for the final essay, okay? So I'm giving you some steps here. I'm not giving you the exact means by which you are all going to be doing that. And one of the reasons why is because I don't want you to just copy what I'm doing. So I'm putting a little twist on it from what I'm going to ask you to do. And that little twist is basically I'm evaluating an argument from that video that I had you guys watch on Uganda Out of the Wild, that Frontline documentary that I had you guys watch, okay, that was made in 2010. And so it was focused on that veterinarian Gladys Kalema-Zikusoka from Uganda. And so let's go ahead and step into it. So first, what I want you to do is think about that. One of the ways that I did this is I started out, and you don't have to do it in this order, but this is how I did it, is I went ahead and watched the documentary, thought about ethics of care because I'm applying ethics of care / feminism to it, okay? And so when I ask you guys to do it, I will assign you a theory by which you could evaluate the argument from this PDF that I'm going to have you look at titled Qualitative Study of Zoonotic Risk Factors Among Rural Communities in Southern China, okay? Obviously having to do with COVID-19 and its development. And so when I do that, I'm going to assign you a theory by which you're going to evaluate it. So what I'm doing now is a similar thing. So instead of doing the paper, I'm looking at the Uganda documentary and evaluating the ethical argument that I'm applying to the veterinarian's work in Uganda, okay, with the gorillas and tuberculosis, okay? So that's basically what I'm doing. So first I'm gonna read you the explication of the argument, and I was able to write that in 171 words. So bear with me, it's a little bit dense, but once you see it written out, I'm gonna provide you with a PDF for this so you can read along with what I'm reading here, okay? As a veterinarian working on gorilla health in Uganda, Dr. Gladys Kalema-Zikusoka recognizes that occurrences of disease spillovers are relational to the health of the primates, emplaced in the health of surrounding communities and everyday interactions. Within an environment, care for health is not just about human health, it is One Health. Okay, so I'm going to hyperlink you to that concept of One Health because I want you guys to look at that because that's really cool that they mentioned in the video. And then likewise, with the retroactive use of ethics of care, specifically Nell Nodding's virtue of care, Dr. Kalema-Zikusoka sees that caring for nature has to do with educating the community of people to gain a recognition of how diseases like tuberculosis spread from human to animals and vice versa from animals to humans, okay? So the virtue there is care, and it has to do with caring for nature by way of how it is that Dr. Kalema-Zikusoka is thinking about and practicing her work, okay? So then I have in brackets, note that Dr. Kalema-Zikusoka is not necessarily utilizing the ethics of care outright, okay? So education of care involves caring and learning about the practices of cleanliness with our daily habits and hygiene as emplaced and grounded in the willful interactions of our bodies. Our bodies are vectors for diseases along with our waste. Animals are vectors for disease, and likewise inanimate objects become vectors of disease, okay? Food, clothing, contact points, etc. So she highlights it in the video where she looks to that open field and sees that there could be a scarecrow that the gorilla interacts with the clothing and gets the bacteria that will cause the tuberculosis in the gorilla remember that tuberculosis is not transmitted with a virus. It actually is bacterial, okay? Just a little note there. Okay, so when I look at that paragraph, I ask myself, well, what's the conclusion, right? And in conjunction with how it is that I'm thinking of what she was doing in the video, her work, her veterinarian work, and then likewise how that's blended with ethics of care, okay? So think about all those things while you write about it, and then what do you take out for the formal argument as the basic conclusion? So I have here, therefore, the conclusion is Dr. Kalema-Zikusoka's virtue of care is an emplacement of one health as a relation of people, animals, and the environment to be a learning opportunity in the name of controlling the spread of existing and new diseases, okay? Thus aiming to control disease spillover from human to animal and from animal to human pathogen transmission, okay? So that's the conclusion. So then I ask myself, what's the reasoning that took us to that? So think of it as you're continuing to just distill it to its most basic elemental forms, okay? So think about the argument, evaluating the formal argument as that. In other words, you're taking it even further. So once you've drawn it into your paragraph, then you also now have a way of thinking about your conclusion, and then you have it even in more elemental form when you're thinking about what the premises are, what took us to that conclusion. So you could work in this in any direction you want. You could draw out the formal argument first and then go for the paragraph so that you could get the bare bones elemental version. It's all up to you. I worked on it a little differently than that, but whatever easiest for you, okay? So then what are the premises, right? What's the reasoning behind that? What takes us to that conclusion without being redundant, okay? In other words, what I mean by redundancy is that you don't want each point of reason as a repetition of each other. You want them to be distinct points of reason that took you to that conclusion, okay? So think about the premises like that. So premise one is, as a veterinarian working on gorilla health in Uganda, Dr. Gladys Kalema-Zikusoka recognizes that occurrences of disease spillovers are directly relational to the health of the primates, humans, and the environment, okay? Then premise two, with the retroactive use of ethics of care, specifically Nell Nodding's virtue of care, Dr. Kalema-Zikusoka sees that caring for nature has to do with educating the community of people in terms of managing and avoiding pathogen transference through proper hygiene and cleanliness habits, okay? Then premise three is Dr. Kalema-Zikusoka's recognition of one health, i.e. the interrelation of the emplaced health of people, animals, and the environment requires education in terms of caring, okay? So what you want to see is that although I mentioned the education in the second paragraph, I wasn't talking about that in terms of its relation to this one health concept, which is a big point in terms of how she was working, how she was in practice with her veterinary work to see that there are these connections and relations with the people, the animals, and the environment, okay? So she was being distinctly feminist, whether she is a feminist or not. So those are things to think about, okay? So just to recap what we're doing, that's my evaluation of the argument by way of the video I had you guys look at on the Frontline, the 2010 Frontline documentary, Uganda Out of the Wild. So we saw a short excerpt out of the longer documentary, okay? I evaluated that, and I did that because I don't want you guys to just copy my argument, because I'm going to assign you work to do by way of evaluating an argument from the essay, A Qualitative Study of Zoonotic Risk Factors Among Rural Communities in Southern China. So I'm giving you a PDF for that, and also assigning you a theory to work there to evaluate the arguments that are drawn out there. So it's a scientific paper, by the way. don't be too intimidated by it. It's remarkably straightforward. As technical as it is, there's something about it that is really cool because it's talking, excuse me, it's covering this idea that there are these practices that they're getting a hold of in terms of how to understand the virus management and avoidance of COVID-19, okay? So there's a very specific way in which they're doing that to think about practices, okay? So I'm gonna have the details of that in a PDF after I work on this video and get that down. So thank you, and I'll talk to you later. So excellent, excellent, excellent. Thank you. Bye-bye.